Welcome back to the casting station. My name is hi-rez Hindu Man. Alongside me, hi-rez Aggro. We're going to take you through the afternoon now in the drive home from work or the weekend at your parents' house to now go into a bit more action. We're going to be here all night long, so make sure the music keeps on popping and the games keep on rolling.
Get some snacks, get some drinks, get it all ready. Order a gigantic pizza now so you can continue to eat it later on. That's the veteran move. Don't just get a small. Get the large, put some in the fridge, heat it up later. You're welcome.
We know it's a long day for you guys as well, so just a reminder, the casting pairs are going to stay in twos. We don't normally tell you this, but it's more like you get a break after every 2 games to go and grab yourself something real quick so you don't miss any of the action if you need that. But for now, we'll go into Game 8, which is going to be Enemy, who are currently 2-0, up against Astral Authority, who I believe are currently 0-2.
Yeah, this is going to be a pretty important game overall here for both sides. I mean, if you're 0-2 at this stage, you need to win this game, or else you're in a really, really tough spot. Or if you're 2-0, then you're going to be able to have a really good chance of guaranteeing your spot in the SPL. I can get in on this.
I know, I'm just like,
what
is this picks and ban music?
Oh, no, you're thinking of the next game where you're already skipping ahead, Hindu. This one's in Memory of Gabe, and Cope is still the problem.
We'll do that later, but Memory of Gabe versus Cope. Let's see how... No, it's not this one, is it? Is it this game we're doing, Memory of Gabe versus Cope? Okay, cool. My bad. Mog is going to be up against Cope then, and Trust on 2-0, Cope at 1-1 after their performance against Nerima, right?
No, Cope is 0-2 right now. They just lost.
Cope is the problem.
Oh no, they are 1-1, dude. This whole relegation thing.
Good work, Aggro.
Cope has a record of 2 games. Some are wins, some are losses. Maybe they aren't. Maybe it's all losses, but who knows? In Memory of Gabe, they are definitely 2-0 though, and they're looking to go 3-0.
Bans are Nike, Sylvanas, Thanatos, Ratatosca. We're not actually seeing much Thoth today, or Thoth, or Thoth. Or Thoth.
I'm partial to Thoth.
But with that as well, I mean, will we see him today is the question. Is Izanami going to be locked in again for Memory of Gabe? We saw Hurriwind playing that one earlier today. Snoopy on the Vulcan as well over there. We're not seeing much Hercules over in North America as well. I noticed that Europe yesterday was really dominant.
Yeah, first pick banned away for Hercules NA. They're not super worried about that. No picks for it either. And on the other side, we've seen a lot of Thanatos in North America that Europe wasn't particularly worried about. So it goes both ways.
Surprised here that we saw the Izanami first pick, even though it is a dominant pick in North America, it seems. Especially when they banned the Thanatos and Khepri was available. It gave an opportunity for Copes. Still the problem to pick up the Khepri and then Thoth alongside it.
Yeah, that Thoth's going to be interesting to see how Viper's able to perform on that. Had a pretty solid game overall on Poseidon. A little bit of a weak early game, but started to turn it around towards the later stages. Geb and Serqet, this is exactly what a Memory of Gabe has been doing all day long. Giving Eonic this defensive guardian and Geb, and then Cynosure on this Serqet has been incredibly effective.
And obviously Serqet as well with the extra mobility at gap closing against some of these mid lane mages. Getting to Thoth in the backline is going to be something that they can definitely do here if they can collapse correctly.
Absolutely, and that's going to be really up to the support player Balentine on Cope to make sure that Viper is staying alive and using that Khepri ultimate to make sure he survives that dive composition that a Memory of Gabe is using.
Well, Najah banned out there by Memory of Gabe. Not a common ban right now, I want to say, but at the same time, the setup potential for the final judgment is very strong there with the Najah, very similar to Scylla as well.
Exactly, same sort of idea. You're taking them up into the sky and then bringing them down into a guaranteed 2,000 damage ultimate, and that's going to take down even the tankiest of targets, basically. So I like this Najah ban. Hanbat as well, great setup for Thoth. Really, really strong CC, good in the mid game and the late game. If I'm Cope, I'm looking at something in the early game that can help out my Thoth. Just like in Awilix, or Thoth, not very good in the early game. He does a lot of things well, but early push isn't one of them. And so when you have a high-pressure jungler like Awilix in the early stages of the game, it's very easy to get away with that poor clear.
Also causes a couple of problems for Serqet as well. She does want to ambush towards target. She's going to be careful of the gravity surge coming out from Awilix as well. Vulcan again. Will we see Snoopy on that one? And I just mentioned Hercules.
I expect to. I mean, it worked last time. If it ain't broke, you know, don't fix it. And especially with Izanami being picked up and Giannis not being picked up. You see that Giannis wasn't banned until the second stage of banning. That tells me that Hurriwind is definitely on this Izanami, because otherwise I would expect to see him on the Giannis.
And tier final pick for Cope there, going to combine nicely with the Awilix for the Fearless.
Very much so.
Chained into the Gravity Surge combo. Hercules though, we did mention, and Thoth as well, like both of these two have been dominant picks over in Europe yesterday, like constantly banned, constantly picked, whereas over in North America, not so much. But this game, both of them are here.
Yeah, seeing it both here in North America. And this tier pick, we can really tell how far Erlang Shen has fallen with the nerf to his pin, because he doesn't have that cripple anymore. And that was the god that Cope was most comfortable with, was that Erlang Shen. It would have provided an even easier knockup than the Fearless, but tier still fits that bill of really good pressure in lane, a little bit more CC capability in the later stages of the game and setting up for Mexiety on this Awilix.
Well, here comes the Goom squad of Cope now through the enemy jungle. Bad news is, though, that Gabe, Eonic, very, very smartly warded his own jungle for safety at the beginning of the game, and immediately this whole rotation gets spotted. Now, we did see this in the previous game, though.
We did, and it looks like they're just not worried about it. Cope is still the problem. Still going to try and proxy these waves. We saw this last time. They're going to split up, send a couple to the left side.
Look at Hurriwind and how far back he's positioned. Look at Snoopy and how far back he's positioned into. Trying to slow down this advance a little bit if they can. Cause them a couple of problems. Snoopy's going to get a bit of a poke off there. Hurriwind in the mid lane doing the same thing to Mexiety, but it's not enough to slow them down and clearing both those waves.
Good poke there. Hurriwind killed Cope! Are you serious? He just kills him!
The giggle's right there from Hurriwind too. The little giggle laugh at the end there. Free kill on Cope. Cope clearly tanked the whole wave. Ends up getting picked up. So does this start really work out when you give Hurriwind a wave in mid lane for free as well as first blood? I don't think so.
How does that happen? I mean, just not respecting the damage out of Izanami, I suppose. Cope falls there for the first blood, and that's a really big boon for Hurriwind in the middle lane on this Hunter.
I don't even know if Cope actually did pop a potion there at all, actually thinking about it and looking at the right-hand side of the screen. Still 3-3, same with the Hercules overall. He could have gone 4-4, but I doubt it overall there. So, interesting start at the beginning of this game already. 500 gold lead for Memory of Gabe, even though they did lose some of their jungle here. Pressure onto Snoopy on the left-hand side.
And this is what you have to do up against the immobile mage in the dual lane. Balentine, good rotation over here. On the right-hand side, though, Cope pushed back after that Earthbreaker from Whalrus, but not quite enough kill potential quite yet.
Yeah, Cynosure on the Serqet again, looking for the hot plays he did last time in the solo lane at the beginning of the game. Looking to continue this. Left-hand side, though, Cope's team will manage to take down the Oracles at the Gold Fury, get themselves a bit of ward pressure there, make sure no sneaky attempts or just rotations will come off the back of them.
I really like the overall draft idea here from Cope. You've got your early game pressure, courtesy of Khepri and Awilix, and then you've got your late game carries in Rama and Thoth, and then Tyr is there to just do it all for you all game long. He can do his job throughout the majority of the game, so it's a very well-balanced composition, whereas on the side of In Memory of Gabe, they don't have a great early game. Serqet pretty good now with that Bluestone Pendant, able to put a lot more pressure on the map than she used to be able to, but it's going to take a little bit for Hurriwind to get the real damage online, even with that first blood. And then Snoopy, they're putting him away into the island, basically, of duo lane, and just waiting for him to get the items and be the late game monster.
You can see Gabe have recovered nicely from the proxy attack coming out from Cope at the beginning of the game. Yeah, that first blood did come into play a little bit, but on the grand scheme of things, it's not an experience worthy overall. It's just more they're doing a good job of farming and answering back to that initial invade.
Yeah, and again, we see the experience of In Memory of Gabe paying off, whereas this strategy worked very, very well up against Neilma. It's not nearly as effective up against the experienced players of In Memory of Gabe. On the right-hand side, it looks like Mexiety actually tried to gank and use his purification. He's got no beads.
Yeah, I'm going to roll in straight away, find two of them, hit the rollout to Cope, not really the target he was after, but showing presence more than anything else is the rest of his team are going to take the elementals on the right-hand side.
And you can see Whalrus just doing his best to stay alive in the early stages as Hercules. It takes a little bit for Hercules' wave clear to be the one-shot capability of driving strike, but once he gets a couple, he finishes off that leveling that driving strike and then starts working on mitigate wounds. You just get so much sustain, so many protections when you pop that, and then when he gets Shield of Regrowth on top of that, getting the 20% CDR, and he's zooming around the map whenever he presses 3, it's really tough to deal with.
Yeah, for the time being, he's just focusing on farming now with all the buffs being down. Left-hand harpies are available for one of the teams to take right now. I believe Memory of Gabe knows what's up there as the pressure in mid lane is from Eonic and Hurriwind alone. And obviously with this Izanami mid lane, it gives you a little bit more pressure than some of the mages in the early game with the amazing wave clear she has.
Yeah, her wave clear is just bananas. I mean, there's no other word for it. It's super, super strong, and that's why you see her in the middle lane more often than not as far as other hunters go. It used to be Neith was the premier mid hunter, but now Izanami really fills that role.
Nothing funnier than watching a weird expand 2 people and goes, okay. He could have just walked away there, but panicked a little bit by using Suku. They didn't know he was there until he summoned Suku.
Yeah, until
and that actually was like,
the sound cue.
There's a dude behind us. Well, damn, this gank isn't going to work.
Yeah, that was a pretty funny little interaction. Whalrus and Cynosure just both so
Boulders.
Amazed by that wall. Speed buff not stolen away. No, Mex
not going
gets
to find it over there. But left-hand side now, Hurriwind has rotated to the right. Hitting a bit of poke onto Viper here. Looking to continue to pressure. Balentine now forced to rotate to the right to join Eonic over here too. As the blue buff is being contested. Meanwhile, Whalrus trying to fight Cope.
And just trying to zone him off of this blue buff as the rest of his team secures it for him. Stolen away. And that's going to really help out Whalrus. These are two solo laners that both really rely on mana to do the majority of their clearing. They aren't like a Bologna or an Osiris hi-rez that can really rely on their auto attacks to do so. Both of these characters use their abilities, and they're both pretty mana intensive. So stealing away a blue buff, not only is it a boon as far as taking away golden experience and adding it to your side, but it makes your job of bullying the opponent in lane much easier.
Elemental's going to go away of Gabe again. And Memory of Gabe are just doing a very good job of controlling the objectives. Cope seem to be very reactionary. I keep talking about that because that seems to be the tail of the tape when they come up against teams like Mog. Let them make the plays and try and counter off it, but it doesn't seem to be working that well.
I mean, it seemed to work last time in the later stages up against Neoma, but against a tenured team like in Memory of Gabe, I'm not sure they're going to have the same amount of success. You're right, they need to be a little bit more aggressive, especially in the 3v3 fights, because right now Awilix and Khepri are going to be a little bit more effective than the Serqet and Gabe combination with the opposing mid laners.
I do like the call from Sops coming out here to go for that Oracle Chalice as well, just to get some extra wards down on the side of the map. I think as the season goes on, we'll see more and more people picking up these chalices, potentially one for every single player as time goes on, because you've still got room for a ritual or potions as well.
Yeah, potions or the sentry ward, that's very, very important. I think that we've seen a lot of supports pick this up, and you can see both in this game have it. And right there, what Balentine has in his consumables, that is the standard that you expect out of supports right now. The Oracle Chalice to give you 2 regular wards to place that gets refilled whenever you back, and the sentry ward, so whenever the other team is placing their regular wards or their sentries, very, very easy to counter them.
Gank on the left-hand side here, potential from Cope, but instead it's Mexiety who gets pressured out. A lot of free poke damage onto him as they were trying to set up for something there on that left-hand side. It got turned around a little bit. There's nobody in the jungle to really steal right now, so for the most part, it's both just positioning, looking for an opportunity.
And the purification used by Mexiety yet again. He's picking these early game gods and just doesn't seem to be able to find the pressure that you expect whenever you're picking a god like Awilix so far.
Sops tries to run past the turret there to slow down the clear, but the turret realistically is just there for show, as the backfire is where most of the damage is coming from for Snoopy right now. Continuing to farm up, has a bit of defense online to deal with what Rama's going to throw at him.
Yeah, it looks like Snoopy is maxing that backfire, and Vulcan is one of the few characters in Smite right now that you can really go any of the 3 abilities you can level early on and put prioritization into and be okay. Usually you don't see the meatball being leveled, but if you're trying to skirmish a lot in the middle lane, it's actually pretty strong. Does a lot of burst damage along with that CC. Backfire, probably the most common ability we see max out first on Vulcan, but leveling the turret first also has a lot of benefits if you are up against someone who has a difficult time dealing with it.
Speed buff rotation on the right-hand side as Cope does get hit by the ultimate from Cynosure. Going to avoid the Earthbreaker there. And on the left, you can see the speed being contested with the Cataclysm coming out from Eonic as well. Ooh. Speed buff was stolen away. Final Judgment did a little bit of damage, but not enough to kill Hurriwind now. And now Memory of Gabe on the advance once more.
And again, that's because of the fact that Mexiety's purification beads were down. It allows in Memory of Gabe to go in and be aggressive on that speed buff because they know Mexiety has no way out of the CC chain. He immediately takes about 80% of his life from Cataclysm and Dark Portal
and not
combined.
only that, they get the blue buff on the right, they steal the red buff on the left as well. Memory of Gabe just stripped the entire buff jungle apart from the purple for themselves, and now Balentine's a little bit far forward here. Gonna get pressured out, Meatball comes out, Backfire didn't do what it wanted to, but it still forces the ult from Balentine, so a small win again for Memory of Gabe.
Looks like Snoopy had used his ultimate to confirm red buff, I'm guessing. It's down right now, so that's why you don't see him use that Earthshaker over the top to try and confirm that kill onto Balentine. Great bait there by Hurriwind, intentionally letting himself get abducted by Khepri and just waiting for his team to come down from that red buff and put pressure on.
Just a very methodical game so far. The one interesting thing for me, I guess, Aggro, is looking at this composition of Memory of Gabe and the team itself is who really will be the shot caller of this team? Because there's a lot of voices here that have got the experience, as well as Cynosure doesn't really have the tenure that the rest of his team really show off here. And Jungler's normally the one that's a shot caller.
Right. Well, we have seen many successful teams that don't have their junglers as shot callers. The first one that comes to mind for me is Season 2 Enemy that goes to the World Finals and adjusts as their jungler who doesn't really have a whole lot of communication in that sense. Whalrus on the right-hand side forces out that ultimate feather step, immediately pushed back in. There's the gravity surge, but they might not have the damage they do as Cope's able to pick him up. Cynosure trying to get one more auto attack. The feather step, not going to buy him enough time.
Well, he will pick up the kill, but at the same time, luckily enough, the poison just wore off. Otherwise, Cope could have been in a bit more trouble there with that true damage coming through an anti-heal to make sure that Cope wouldn't be able to heal there. But it's a 1 1-for-1 trade solo for the jungle at the same time. In the grand scheme of things, though, does that really work out for anyone?
I think it worked out in favor of a Memory of Gabe because Mexiety's already behind in levels, and this is just more time that's spent not farming. It's more time spent in base, not getting the farm. You can see he's already 3 levels down to Cynosure.
A lot of heavy wave play from both these two now, but Hurriwind with a 2-level lead over Viper after that minion wave goes down too. Supports at an equal level. Just shows how well Hurriwind is doing at collecting the farm around the map.
Yeah, and you got to give shout-outs to Cynosure as well on this Serqet, even up the level with Hurriwind in the middle lane. And, you know, Cynosure wasn't this world beater on console. He was always very, very solid. And yeah, you expected him to have a good game, and he had a pretty decent god pool. But it's not this guy who was dominant over there and is now making the transition. He was good, and his team was good. And
consistent was probably the best way to put Cynosure.
Sure, and now, you know, he's just looked so good since coming over to the PC side in Memory of Gabe. I know Hurriwind tweeted out that he was very, very impressed with Cynosure and had no idea he was this good, and he's really proving it so far today.
Speed buff Invade coming out one more time. You did see Hurriwind lose his beads there, not trusted in Eonic with a shield in time. Speed buff is dropped, given over to Cynosure, stolen away again by Memory of Gabe. Balentine looked for the route there to try and set some potential up for a turnaround kill in response, but it's too little too late. As in the left-hand side, you saw their sops was 1 hit from death.
Balentine tossed back in, Dark Portal opened up right underneath him. He needs 1 or 2 more ticks. It's not going to be enough. Does use the Scarab's Blessing just in case. There's no way that Balentine outright dies there, and they get what they came for. Memory of Gabe, get that Scarab's Blessing ultimate out of the support.
Well, it's a turnaround for Cope overall there. Instead of losing all 3 buffs, they only lose 2 buffs this time round. As on the right-hand side, Cope does manage to secure his own blue with the support of Mexiety there as well. But the red buff on the left, different story.
Again, it's just the lack of pressure from Mexiety is really hurting Cope is the problem right now. And as a result, Cope has had to really try and step it up. He's a level up over top of Whalrus, and it's working out for now, but they're going to need something out of their jungler if they want to win this game.
I mean, 2 times in a row you do the same thing and the enemy doesn't get anything out of it. You're going to have to figure something for round 3 if you are Cope here. And I think this is a good call to try and make something happen with the Portal Demon. Bad news is the recognition from Memory of Gabe is there, with the amount of wall coverage they have right now. It's just shutting that option down.
That's one of the things that I think that we haven't really discussed about Season 4 quite yet, but the level of ward coverage is way higher than it ever has been in Smite. Maybe like the Eye of Providence days, whenever the old Scout was really useful, but even then you were only getting 1 ward out of those. These Oracle Chalices are just littering the map with wards. I mean, to have this many on the map at 12 minutes, it would have been unheard of in Season 3. Everyone would have been so far behind in their builds because they're buying too many wards. But when you can just invest that gold and get wards every time you back, it just leads to this vision dominance for both teams because they aren't sentries. So you'll see a lot of overlapping wards from the same side, and neither knows they have vision, but they basically know.
Gold Fury's potential start on the left-hand side here from Memory of Gabe is Awilix is spotted on the right here. Cynosure and Zone G going to force sops back as we tune in with Whalrus again. Gold Fury's still being done here. Whalrus is fine on the right. Gold Fury goes down. Memory of Gabe take another objective again.
And they don't even use an ultimate, only the blink out of Cynosure necessary to create that space to allow his team to do the Gold Fury up about 4,500 experience, 3,500 gold, and Memory of Gabe just looking like such a clean team.
A little bit surprised Sops didn't go for the ultimate there, just for a cheeky little, you know, snipe over the top there, but I guess he's a little bit worried potentially of Snoopy in the laning phase.
I mean, Snoopy, it looks like Snoopy's been doing a great job of timing his Earth Shaker with that Rama ultimate to time it whenever he comes down. I mean, Snoopy is the Rom player in the Pro League that everyone knows about, so you know he's got that ultimate timing down. So even if Sops does try and go up into the sky for that, Snoopy can make him pay with that Earthshaker, so he's got to be careful about it.
Well, the Portal Demon goes the way of Memory of Gabe, as you saw there. Love the animation and noise, and you clearly tell who got it. The speed buff for the 3rd time in a row being looked at, as Cynosure's already started this one up. You can see Thoth in the mid lane looking to try and defend this, but it's already gone down. Cynosure picks that one up and is looking for a rotation to try and find a kill as well.
He's level 13, still 3 levels over Mexiety right now, and Mexiety still doesn't have that additional relic available to him. Cynosure's blink is still on cooldown for about another 35 seconds or so, but once that's up, that's another power spike that he can take advantage of that Mexiety doesn't have an answer for.
Red buff about to spawn again, and already 3 members of Memory of Gabe are here. No response from Cope yet, falling back again, just signaling to stay under their towers, play safe, and just push out the lanes instead. It's just a continuation.
Yeah, they're just running through the motions right now. They're doing a circle, and it's just speed buff, red buff, speed buff, red buff, kill Balentine.
pick the Khepri, or at least force his ult every single time it's up. Balentine under pressure, great knocker from Awilix. Not enough to slow down the advance of Balentine, though, who's one hit. Will get his ultimate off in time. Cynosure pretty low, and Cope's chasing down there. Final
too early!
Did not work out, and the boulder from Whalrus not finding a home either.
The Dark Portal was too early from Hurriwind. He couldn't silence out Balentine. Whalrus, he's not done. He's still trying to find Viper. Gonna do about half of his HP, but Viper doesn't even use his purification beads. Very patient there. Whalrus around the backside. Viper needs to be careful this time around that he will use those purification beads a second time.
And now Cope turns up as well, but Cope's in an awkward spot because driving strike from Whalrus pulls him back in. No focus from Gabe onto tier though. They want this tier 1 tower. And just look at Eonic's tanking ability, realizing how tanky he is at this stage and how much he can absorb to allow his team just to take it for free.
Just a lot of raw HP for Eonic right now on this Geb. Geb already gets plenty of HP just by leveling up, as do most Guardians. But you've got the Sovereignty, and he's working on what looks to be a Heartward Amulet, I'm guessing. Has that Silver Talisman, a good amount of health boost from that as well. Level 12, that's exactly right where Geb likes to be, because now he's not worried about that weak early game that he's really notorious for. He's gotten to the stage where his Stone Shield is healthy enough that he can make sure that he himself is safe and his teammates are as well.
And the best thing is with supports at the moment, it's kind of up in the air about what the correct build is. Generally, supports all end up defaulting to one build. There was a lot of talk about auras being the way to go with Sovereignty, Heartward Amulet, and then Gauntlet of Thebes potentially on top of that to give real protections. But we have seen a lot of mix-ups overall between them as we watch Cope on the right-hand side be forced to Lawbringer defensively again, just in time for the next speed buff to be spawning as well.
Yeah, no, and that's no coincidence. That's exactly what In Memory of Gabe is trying to do, is to make Cope be more vulnerable in this scenario, because they're going to be looking for the speed buff every single time. And you mentioned the Gauntlet of Thebes there, Hindu. You can see Balentine actually went that right away. He's got very little protection. A lot of health, but very little protection.
He did get his boots online before that, though, and then finished off because he started off with the tier 1 of that Gauntlet of Thebes and invested into it afterwards. But it is a cheap, cost-efficient item for the most part, but as you said, not a whole lot of protections on it, a whole lot of health, however, different story.
Yeah, only provided protections because of the aura that it's giving to you and the rest of your teammates. Tier 1 tower on the right side falls. Cope, he's going for this wave, but that might be a little too ambitious here in the middle of 3. No Lawbringer quite yet. Whalrus off the mark, though, with the Earthbreaker and the driving strike.
And now reinforcements are here as well for Cope at the same time. Cope's going to be able to fearless back towards the tower. Like you said, no Lawbringer ready, but this Earthbreaker, though, different story. Whalrus hits as the Earthshaker comes through, and Viper's going to get hit by that boulder too. Viper forced down, Cope dead. Tier 2 tower can be looked at.
And this is just, again, Cynosure blinks in. There's the last breath. He goes for the ride with Balentine as he's pulled up into the sky. The revive's going to be good, but it's not going to matter. Eonic able to pick up a kill on that Geb, courtesy of Shockwave. The left-hand side, Sops does a good job getting to the Tier 1 tower. It looks like the Tier 2 as well, but I don't think In Memory of Gabe has any plan to stop him on the right.
No, it looks like they're going to go for the Phoenix as well, knowing that Sops is still in lane, and it's only 2 members here, level 13, level 12 of their opposition. With half mana, Final Judgment channeled, fired, did nothing.
Tickles.
Whalrus.
Tickles him.
Didn't care.
And that Thoth is a late game mage. He's much more similar to Scylla than his chicken Egyptian brethren in Ra. He's much, much more geared towards that late game. His scaling is nuts. His safety is nuts in the late game, but in the early game, the base damage really, really not that high for a mage, and so you really need a bunch of items to make most use of his kit. And right now you can see, I mean, very little power for Viper. He's only got the boots, he's only got the Dynasty Plate helm, has the Soul Trap. I'm assuming that was planning on being a Book of Thoth, but at this stage, it might be worth just going for Soul Reaver,
with a big Final Judgment to try and turn a fire around, potentially, if they can. Just delete one of their opposition off the map to turn this. With that Phoenix going down as well on the right-hand side, it opens the game up a little bit more, forcing someone from Cope to have to sit in that right-hand lane for the next few minutes.
And they're going to push that out. Luckily for them, it is on the right-hand side, like you mentioned, so they can defend the Fire Giant and push out the wave simultaneously, but it does open up the door for this Gold Fury, going to go the way of In Memory of Gabe, the second of the game. The gold difference, almost 8,000 XP, is over 8,000 already. And it's only 4-1 in kills into, but it has just been a slow bleed. Yeah, just choking out Cope is the problem.
Completely agree. They've just sat back and just done what they needed to for the most part, and Cope haven't has an answer. The team have not responded to the speed buff invade over and over again, to the red buff invade over and over again. The only time they've actually secured those for themselves is when Memory of Gabe have been getting even more important objectives, like Phoenixes, like Gold Furies, like Portal Demons.
And games like this may not be as exciting for most viewers than the, 30 to 28 in kills, but there's one team with a big gold lead. These are more impressive to the high-level players, I think, when you could just make your will happen. There's just no chance for the other team to do anything. You're always on top of timers. You're working together as a coordinated unit. I kind of liken these games to defensive battles or pitcher duels in traditional sports, where for the casual fan, maybe not quite as exciting, but for those that really watch and really pay attention, these games like this are incredibly impressive.
Especially when you saw Cope try for a different strategy that we'd not seen before with proxy farming 2 waves at the beginning and invading the jungle. Granted, they did get first blood there, Memory of Gabe onto Hurriwind, but I don't think that was necessarily the biggest talking point of that. It was the response of how much pressure they lost in those lanes and jungle pressure they lost to turn it around to make it them ahead.
Well, the whole idea, I'll hold that thought, middle Phoenix, that's going to get sieged down. Eonic plucked back in, taking a decent amount of damage. Cynosure, he blinks into the backline. Final Judgment hits a couple, but not quite enough damage yet. Nice blink, Fearless. Cynosure, he's going to fall. Earthshaker not going to find a home either. Middle Phoenix falls. Balentine is going to die by the hand of Whalrus, but only 1 for 1, and the Phoenix still down.
It's messy, but it's good for Gabe here because they get what they really wanted, which was that Phoenix. 1 loss of life in Cynosure. Yes, he goes a little bit too deep there. Good play from Cope to turn it really round on that tier with the blink to set himself up with the filler to keep Cynosure in range of that Phoenix as well and bring him down. But grand scheme of things, there's only 1 lane left for Memory of Gabe to assault, and nobody really in a position for Cope is still a problem to do anything about it.
No, even with the 4v4, without that front liner and Balentine, very, very difficult to get in and really make anything happen. Another 2,000 gold between the tier 1 and tier 2, going to go the way of In Memory of Gabe. That's going to push their gold lead up above 12,000 gold. And we were talking about that beginning where Hurriwind gets the first blood, and that kill isn't that important in terms of how much golden experience he gets, but the entire plan of that start is for the team, the groups to go into opposite side jungles and steal away buffs. But when it's only Mexiety there without Cope, they can't steal that buff. So that entirely wipes out that entire strategy of stealing away the right side jungle, which is much more effective gold than just that first blood.
And it's more the ward placement from Eonic that set that up for them. By having the wards down early on with the support player in your jungle, keeps an eye on these rotations for potential Phoenix proxy farmers, basically is the best way to put it, and then try and disengage. But if you get spotted and you don't leave the jungle again, they know you're still going to be there, and it just allowed Memory of Gabe to adjust and try and answer something back, which turned out huge in the end.
Wards are more important than ever in the early game. You can make the argument that I suppose late season 3, where the invades were very, very prevalent, you needed wards then, but you really need wards now because that strategy is incredibly effective if the other team doesn't see it coming. If they do, and something like that happens where you get first blooded, then it feels pretty bad.
Just want to show you the 2 hunters. Obviously Snoopy here playing a Vulcan up against Sops on the Rama. But that wall placement there is quite high for those hunters at 22 minutes in. Maybe the rest of the hunters in the Pro League will be looking to do this themselves. Here goes Eonic with a Blink Cataclysm. Earthshaker and Earthbreaker combined beautifully overall. And there's the Earthbreaker, I should say, onto Viper, pulling him out. And Cynosure, though, gets pulled away from going in the Gravity Search. Cyno could be in a lot of problems there, but gets meditated back to safety. Phoenix to the right did fall, and Gabe fall back, happy with the win. Now towards the left-hand side, potentially.
Cynosure doesn't have the Fire Giant buff, so he's not going to be regenning by that, but he's still got enough damage and mobility that he can stick around for at least a little bit longer. Left side Phoenix going to fall. Hurriwind on this Izanami, one of the best objective pushers in the game. Just that attack speed steroid, so useful.
And now it's just a kind of waiting game for Gabe to wait for some minions to come up with the fire elementals, so the fire minions overall here. But a nice little play on the left there for Mexiety to actually pick up Cynosure. Going to slow them down for a second. Cope's going on to Snoopy, but Hurriwind is just whacking in the back of his head at the same time. Knockups for days from Eonic, and Snoopy going to slow things down again. And Whalrus too, with his own couple of hits.
Oh, he pushed him back into it. Viper actually dashed into it, but just able to survive. Snoopy, that ultimate may have been better served on the Titan, but it may not matter at all. In Memory of Gabe, take this game up against Cope is still the problem in convincing fashion. 23 minutes.
Convincing enough to get themselves in a very dominant position in the relegations too. Still undefeated so far. Memory of Gabe kind of came into this one, and a lot of people expected them to be in this spot overall.
Yeah, I mean, this is, like you mentioned, just so many veterans on this roster. Eonic, Snoopy, Hurriwind, Whalrus, and then Cynosure Cynosure, who hasn't been a SPL veteran, but certainly an SCL veteran. Really, really strong play overall from the entire squad.
Now, we didn't exactly get to see how Cope died, but we can now, hopefully, with the replay coming up of Hurriwind picking up that first blood at the beginning of the game, because that was the real telltale of what happened here.
Yeah, and like you mentioned, I mean, Hurriwind's, he's not even actually looking at Cope. He took a Phoenix shot. That's what it was.
That's what you get. That's what you get for proxy farming. Yeah, Phoenix shot's OP.
That's rough, man. That did literally half his health. I mean, that's pretty nuts. And then just stuff like this is basically what Memory of Gabe got to do all game long. You can see, I mean, there is just no one near them. I mean, no one. We can speed it up, still no one there.
Yeah.
Just no one there.
They hang around, then they go, well, why don't we just do the 5-giant here, because nobody else is watching either right now. So we'll pick this one up for free, not even get contested with this, sit back and have a good time. Very, very good win for Memory of Gabe here overall, 4-1. And the scoreline's there, but it didn't show you how different the golden experience was.
It was just pure domination from In Memory of Gabe all game.